Hi guys, Miss Elder here, and we're going to talk about the quiz that you guys recently took. We're going to go over the answers, and somebody wanted to say hi to you.
Hello,
Tell them your name.
my name is Max and I'm her daughter.
No, you're what? It's my son.
No.
Although you wouldn't know with all the hair. All right, now you go and close the door. All right.
Stay safe.
Wear your masks. All right, I asked him to get up and close my door because I didn't feel like getting up, and he was like, Max, close the door. And he was like, can I be in the video? And I was like, sure, for a second. So, okay, we're going to go over this quiz that you see here in front of you. It's got the right answers on it. I'm also going to try to open up the Canvas so that you guys have access to which ones you got right and got wrong now that everybody's pretty much done. I just have a couple lingerers. And so, but by the time this video is posted, it's a little bit too late to get that quiz done because I'm giving all the answers. So here we go. Okay. Number one, everybody did pretty well with. Pathos was the most heavily utilized in the challenger speech. Of course, given the situation, that makes a lot of sense. As the president, he doesn't really have to build up his ethos very much. There wasn't very much logos to share, and Thespos is not a thing. Aside from being similar to the word thespian, and supposedly Thespis was the first actor, and that's why they call it thespian, but that's neither here nor there. It's not one of the rhetorical appeals. So, second question. This one did trip people up a little bit, I think because the first three were space related and the last one was not. So if you were going maybe a little bit quickly or you didn't pay close attention to the videos that we did on rhetorical situation with the challenger, or you didn't check your answers maybe for the challenger, even though there was one on there as a sample for you. The correct answer was C. The creation of the Apollo program is tied to the JFK speech. It was the State of the Union address. The challenger speech was the night of the State of the Union. So, number three, we talked about building ethos in the beginning with her, indicating how she was given the AIDS virus. If you're a remote learner, then this was something Mr. Feudo talked about. Now you could also use process of elimination here because B would have been logos and C and D would have been pathos. So the only one really optioned is A. Question number 4, Mary Fisher's secondary audience. This one was pretty much given to you in the background information that was in the video that Mr. Feudo did that we either watched in class if you're an in-person student or that you watched at home if you're a remote learner. But the correct answer was D, that Republicans watching at home who have limited knowledge of HIV and AIDS, many of whom believe in stereotypes and misinformation, would have been her secondary audience. Answer choice A would have been her primary audience. Okay, for number 5. Now, number 5 is the one where I've made some adjustments to the scores because of number 5. Number 5 is my fault, not y'all's fault. The correct answer is A, logical evidence, because he's explaining why it is that it's important that we get out into space first, or at least one of the first people. Only if the United States occupies a position of preeminence can we help decide what's going to happen out there in space. Now, that being said, it also is analogical evidence because twice he makes a comparison. One, literally, when he says for space science, like nuclear science and all technology, so that's a comparison right there. But also when he compares space to this new ocean, like to a sea, that will be a new platform that we are exploring. So Canvas doesn't make it easy to go back and give the same way that Eduphoria used to, or that I used to be able to do on my own, to give credit for a particular other answer choice. So what I did was, this was a 15 question quiz, and instead of counting it out of 15, I counted it out of 20 and gave you the 5 extra questions. So in other words, the questions were 5 points apiece instead of what they should have been, which was a little bit over 7. So that was meant to help. And then I'm going to, whenever I get the time, I'm going to go back through and see who actually picked analogical evidence for this question and bump up their score a little bit as well. Because I do agree. Now, in the future, if I wanted analogical evidence, I would try to be very careful about either making sure the entire passage was analogical or about highlighting or bolding or something like that, the parts that I wanted you to focus on to help so that you would know that for the future reference. Okay. All right, number 6. Not many people missed number 6. You guys did pretty well with that. that the main claim of JFK's We Go to the Moon speech was that we do not back down from things that are difficult. And number 7, that serves as a foil to Ismene, because Ismene, even in the prologue, says impossible things should not be tried at all, which is the exact opposite of what JFK is saying here. Number 8 was A. Again, most people got this one right. Antigone consistently is doing things of her own volition and of her own decisions, whereas Ismene seems to follow the crowd a little bit more. She doesn't want to go against the law. That's the majority of people. And then when the tide starts to shift, she changes her mind. Number 9 was C, anarchy and obsession with money. In the text, it's literally anarchy. It says, anarchy, anarchy, show me a greater evil. But we also have him feeling this obsession with money. He's constantly thinking that people are trying to take over his throne by being bribed to say things to him or do things for him. And I threw that in there to kind of help you pick the right answer, to be honest. The real greatest evil that society faces, according to Creon, is anarchy. Number 10, you guys did really well with. When the Choragus wonders whether the gods themselves have buried Polynices, Creon is very angry, so that goes with temper. And we see his arrogance, which of course is another word for pride, which is a trait that we've been talking about when associated with Creon, and the reaction that he gives is that would be ridiculous. So, okay. Number 11. Most of you guys did fine with this one. Who is the man here? Sheer eye of this crime goes unpunished is demonstrating that he believes as a male that he can't and shouldn't be taken down by a woman. And then the grammar you guys did pretty good with. This is pretty representative, no pun intended there, of what it's going to look like on the test. The questions might be, I think, no, it looks a lot like what it's going to look like on the test, if I'm being honest. So, the Boy Scouts voted what? They voted Ricardo, and they voted him representative. That's your objective complement. Her behavior would be confusing. We've got linking verb here, would be. Be is a linking verb. Confusing is an adjective, so that makes it a predicate adjective. Number 14, I wanted to show you an example where you might have a double predicate nominative, where Thomas Edison was, that's a linking verb, an inventor and a writer. So you can see both of those are predicate nominatives. They're nouns that rename the subject, Thomas Edison. And then Mrs. Hutchins gave Caroline a reprimand for being late. So you say gave is my verb. It's an action verb. Mrs. Hutchins gave what? She gave a reprimand. To whom? To Caroline. So Caroline would have been the indirect object, but reprimand is the direct object. Okay? All right, now I also want to show you guys a little bit about the upcoming test. So let me go into my thing here. Let's see. Sorry for you have to kind of watch me go through all of this. My internet would be faster. That would be super cool. Here we go. Okay, so I have linked this document. I could have just gone to modules and gone that way. That probably would have been faster, but here we are. So you are going to have 10 grammar questions. And you know what? I'll update this as I'm writing it so that you can see. 10. If my computer wants to type for me today, that would be awesome. I'll just let it think about it. You're going to have 10 grammar questions. And they are going to cover everything we've been doing with grammar so far, but it is going to be more focused on the complements because that's what we've been focusing on for this unit. So you still, in order to find the complements, you still need to know where your prepositional phrases are. You need to know what kind of verb especially you're dealing with. You need to be able to separate the subject so that you don't mark it as something else. And we will be using these abbreviations, but this key will be on there. I also, like it says here in subpoint A, if you need any help on a particular topic, go to my Canvas homepage and then click on the button that says helpful links. I'll even show you since you're looking at my screen anyway. Go to my Canvas. And I have updated the second 9 weeks button. It does work now. But if you go down here to helpful links, not only do we have the Writing Center, if you've never seen that before, that's going to be very useful for your upcoming paper that we're going to talk about soon. And then down here, I've got the notes for grammar for each one of the things that we've done so far, just in case you want to review and you're not quite sure where to find the notes. Okay. You are going to have questions on claims, These are going to fall into number 2, number 3, and number 4 are going to fall into general rhetorical appeal stuff or rhetorical knowledge that you guys have learned. So it includes claims, rhetorical appeals, rhetorical situation, types of evidence. Let's see. I'm trying to see what else. I probably should have put these in a different order, but make sure that you understand what makes a claim arguable. This was in the textbook reading that I gave to you. Make sure you know what your rhetorical appeals are and be able to identify which appeal is being most heavily utilized in a particular advertisement or passage or sentence or two. Remember your different types of evidences and how they can be used and how to identify them, very similarly to what we had been doing on that quiz. You're going to need to know Antigone. There's going to be 20 questions on Antigone. Let's see. There we go. You obviously need to know the plot and the characters, but you also need to know the different conflicts, the different themes and messages, and you're going to need to know the tragic hero, which as we didn't finish talking about it, but we discussed in a couple of our videos that it would have to be Creon. There's not a direct question on the test, I don't believe, about like who is the tragic hero, but you might have some questions on what would qualify as being a tragic hero or what some of their character flaws would be, that sort of thing. You're going to have 2 cold reads. The drama cold read it's not like an ancient play that you're going to have difficulty reading on your own. Okay, it's going to be modern enough that you're going to be just fine. It's a very short, I don't honestly know whether it's meant to be like a one scene play, like a little skit, or whether it's pulled. I think it was just written for test purposes, quite honestly, but it looks like a scene. It's about the length of a scene. And you're going to have to make sure that you understand how drama functions on your own so that you can read a play and still be able to understand things like the basic plot of what's going on, characters, character traits, character inferences, theme, that sort of thing. So it'll be like you're reading a story. It's in the shape of a play, in the format of a play. And you're going to have a rhetorical cold read. So this is kind of like when I gave you the JFK speech and made you annotate it on your own. You're going to get a speech that you haven't read before. It will be very rhetorical, meaning very persuasive in nature. And you're going to need to be able to identify things like the rhetorical situation, which I'm going to add to this document, by the way. You're going to need to know things like be able to identify the central claims, the evidence. Oh, I did put rhetorical situation right there for this cold read. And then the use of appeals as well, just like you would have. Now, one thing I want to remind you of for this test is the timing, okay? And I'll put this up top as well. You are going to have 80 minutes for 60 questions. Okay, that's a pretty tight time frame when you consider you have 2 short reading passages as well. Once you start the timer, you can't stop it. It's not like a stop and come back to it kind of thing. So you need to make sure, you guys that are taking this test at home, you need to make sure that you're prepared for an 80-minute window, okay? There's not a lot I can do on my end about technical difficulties, so do the best that you can to be in a situation where your internet is reliable, you have peace and quiet, and that sort of thing. It is open note. You will be allowed to use your resources, but it is timed. We are not using Proctorio at this time. That may be coming in the future, but we will not be doing that right now. Which Proctorio would just flag you for having things you're allowed to have anyway, so we wouldn't want to do that at this point. Please email me if you have questions about the test upcoming. Better to email before than after or during. Yeah, I hope that helps. There's going to be, 10 grammar questions, 10 drama cold read questions, 10 rhetorical cold read questions, 20 Antigone questions, and then 10 over general rhetoric, which I will rewrite this to kind of show that a little bit better. Okay. All right, guys, I'm only allowed to use the program that I'm using for 15 minutes, and I'm getting closer to my 15-minute mark. So I just want to say best of luck. Like I said, contact me early if you have questions. If I've forgotten anything, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening and you're staying warm in this cold weather that we're getting. Yay! Well, cold, depending on where you come from, it is or is not cold yet. But for Texans, it's getting chilly. All right, guys, have a great evening.